and welcome to our wonderful call with Janet. And Janet is here with me to talk about a very deep and profound experience that she's been having in her life with her family. And she's going to help us with how we can use Cistus Essential Oil for grief. And I think this is something that's very important, especially after you hear her story. And what a powerful story it is. But first, I'd like to introduce you, Janet, and give you some background on Janet. Janet grew up in northern Ohio in a very Slavic community. She learned early on about herbal remedies, and then she moved to Arizona, where she attended college and met her career military hubby, and then they were stationed at the Luke Air Force Base. They then traveled all over the world and ended up in Kansas as he retired from the Kansas Air National Guard. Janet is a retired medical social worker and professor, and she worked in hospital, rehab, home health, hospice, and was a rural social worker covering many counties in Kansas. And Janet was the director of the first assisted living facility, and she ran the facility for 5 years. Wow, Janet, that's a long time. And you really know how it is to take care of people when they are not feeling well. That's just beautiful. And that's what she's going to explain to us today, too, about the grief that she went through and how she was able to help others and also herself with Cistus Essential Oil. Janet has been a soap maker for over 30 years due to skin allergies. And Janet is a home herbalist and a nationally certified professional aromatherapist and a member of the NHA. She teaches soap making, aromatherapy 101, tea making 101, herbs and oils of the Bible, and Janet does speaking engagements at women's groups, match at master gardeners and other groups, and she lives on the Kansas prairie where she has a soap shop on her property. She also rescues fur babies, and Greg is her very supportive, significant other one, her person. So thank you so much, Janet, for being here. I really appreciate you. And so could you tell us um, a little bit about, well, really tell us your story about how you started using Cistus and why?
Um, as an aromatherapist and working with clients, I'm always looking for the best essential oil for their specific needs. And sometimes it's not only one essential oil. It can be a combination, a synergy that works together for that person's needs, whether it be physical, emotional, medical. So cystus, I came across cystus for grief and for healing. Um, and let me kind of back up a little bit. 27 years ago, 28 years ago, my military husband was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's disease. And at that time, there wasn't anything. Alzheimer's was the rule out disease. He was 44 when he died. And, I was in and out of herbalism and aromatherapy because of the soap making. So you work, you have a little spare time, you're raising a family, you study, and then you kind of backlap because you don't have the time. So it was during that time that I was able to possibly, lavender was calming, using things like that, but not really digging deep into the essential oils that I have researched in the last probably 10 years now. So, and at that time also, Alzheimer's was the rule out disease, and plus him being in the military, they wanted to see if there was anything more he was exposed to, which he was not. And it was a family gene. So my husband's father was born in the United States, but they moved back to central Mexico, Guanajuato, which is near a couple hours from Jalisco. And it's called the Jalisco gene, the mutant gene. And there wasn't, again, a whole lot of information. There's a book called The Volga River Family, which was by the Volga River, by Germany and Russia. That's called Hannah and Her Heirs, that had this also mutant gene. But not a whole lot was done and researched. They just found some things out and wrote about it. And these people from the Volga River settled in Arkansas. Like I said, there was a book called Hannah and Her Heirs. So kind of fast forward, I spent a year with a grief group, very intense, like 5 weeks of grief support, and then we kind of became a social group. And it was a very good grief support group. I felt I was, doing okay. I spent more time in soap making and aromatherapy, and still not realizing how essential oils could have helped me more at that time. And physicians would refer, I worked very closely with many wonderful physicians, and would refer families to me to talk to them about dementia, Alzheimer's. And I started to do some memory groups for nursing homes and assisted living, because the olfactory is such a trigger to memory, and you're working in nursing homes. And so I would bring a lot of essential oils, and I wouldn't tell them what they were smelling. I would allow them to smell the essential oil and then see if the memory was triggered. And it was an exercise I would do for free to these nursing homes and that. And so I was doing that. I was talking with families. I would talk to Alzheimer's groups. And then, so kind of fast forward, you start to have life again. You start to do things. And so fast forward to 2 years ago, where I have 2 children, and my daughter is now diagnosed with this horrible Jalisco gene. And so KU, which is out in Kansas City, Kansas, and we're an hour from there, that is the big teaching hospital, and it's a very good hospital, and that's where she was diagnosed through DNA. So many years ago, that was not available. It was the rule out disease, blood tests, x-rays, stuff like that. You do vitamin profiles, mineral profiles, deficiencies, and things like that. And I requested a lot of those because I was a researcher, and that was my second job. I can't read a novel, I research. So I would ask my husband's physician, would you please do a vitamin profile? Would you please do a mineral profile? Would you please do this? And he, of course, and it was because they knew that I knew it was going on. So they were very good. And then of course you're with the neurologist, and they can't really do anything. They just see how you're doing and control symptoms. And my husband never was on any meds. Anything that they had at that time was there were too many side effects. So we just allowed nature to take its course, and then he ended up on hospice. And at that time, I was not working hospice. I was working. I was executive director of an assisted living, so I was not working hospice at that time. So with my daughter, I was more deep into aromatherapy, so deep that I think I lived and breathed and ate essential oils. That was all I cared about. And I'm retired now. So at that time, I just had retired, and I'm able to spend a lot more time. And so I found Cistus because I was really looking, and I have a roller blend here that I made, and I was really looking for some different essential oils because I'm reliving this grief for the death of my husband. Now I'm reliving it with my daughter, and I'm seeing what my son-in-law And there's moments where we do okay. There's moments where I cry all day. I spend usually 1 day a week with my daughter there in Lawrence, Kansas, where the University of Kansas is, not the hospital, but the college, the big college. And my son-in-law had his own business. He sold it at the time a year ago where he was ready. He was a master electrician, so he had an electrical company, and he was ready to say, I'm done with the management. I just maybe want to be a consultant. And he's done okay, so he can stay home with her. But I do come down 1 day a week. His mom will come down from Leavenworth, which is like 50 minutes. She's north, I'm south. And we're a very tight family because it's just us. We're a lot of Leavenworth is military, so we're very tight, and we don't have extended family around here. So we're our family. And so she'll spend a half a day or a day, and then I spend a day with my daughter, about 6 hours, and I take her out and we do different things to stimulate her a little bit. She's nonverbal. She can understand what you're saying, but she can't answer back. She has a lot of word finding and jumble words. Sometimes she can say, "Oh, let's go outside," but very fragmented. And she needs cueing with all her activities of daily living.
Mm-hmm.
So in this process, I had noticed that when I leave my daughter, I was so sad, so emotionally sad. And I developed a roll-on, a blend that has cistus in it, because not just, like I said, with current grief, but with pulling the old grief about my husband and reliving everything that happened with him. I'm seeing my daughter go through this now. And I know it's not just me. I mean, I'm looking at my son-in-law, I'm looking at my grandson who's 20 and a half. And so we're reliving this. And essential oils, which is the really nice thing about essential oils, they go through the blood-brain barrier. The any of the medicines can't do that, and people are not understanding the significance of the olfactory and how it triggers the brain and how it can really do healing. I mean, I don't know how many years researching amber, dry distilled amber, because that was one of the things. I have a book like this on amber and Alzheimer's disease. But it's not an easy process, and it's not something that people want to take a pill and then feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you don't even know what is all in that pill. So so I use this blend, and I'll tell you about the blend. And I put it what I usually do it. I don't do it before I see my daughter because it seems like I'm okay, and I want to use it when I feel I need to. So I use it usually when I get in the car. I've gotten her back to the house, and I get in the car, and then I carry this with me all the time. So it's in my purse. And I put it on my wrists. Sometimes if I feel really emotional, I'll put it all over. I'll put it in my inside my elbows. I put it on the back of my neck predominantly. I just feel I need it there. And I do inhale it too, but I usually put it on my touch points, and then I do that. And then I sit in my car for a minute, and then I drive home. And I really feel it has really helped me to control the emotions, because otherwise you can be a really mess. I think the other thing too is my daughter and I have a good relationship, so I don't have any regrets. I think sometimes if you have not good relationships, it triggers even another thing. But we've always had a good relationship. We've always been very close, so that's it's sad, but yet it's also good for my heart that I know that we have a good relationship. And that my son-in-law trusts me enough to come down and spend the day, and stuff like that, and help him out.
Oh,
Um,
that's great. And so so when you get there, you're clear. And afterwards, though, that's when you feel the emotions start coming, and you know you have to drive home safely and be
Yes,
grounded. So that's
yes,
when you're using your blend. And I notice that you're putting it on your major creases, getting it directly into your
yes,
bloodstream, you know.
yes,
So that's
yes.
great. And
Hmm.
when you put Cistus in the blend, what was your reasoning behind it, Janet?
Well, let me kind of read. I have my little referral here because I wanted to read it to you. I think this is a 1/3 ounce, 30 mils. So I did use jojoba because you can use olive oil, you can use fractionated coconut oil. I felt jojoba because I felt that it was going to be a better oil to penetrate into my skin. I love jojoba. Although when I'm working with people and we do like aromatherapy 101 and we do perfume rollers, I use the fractionated coconut oil. But I use
But
jojoba in my,
you use
yes,
jojoba. And you
for
said
this.
that you got into aromatherapy because you had skin problems and allergies to perfumes and stuff. So,
I
this
had, yes, I had a lot of skin allergies to soaps and to additives, any fragrances, anything like that. The essential oils, of course, are natural, they're plant based. When you light a candle, it would gag me if it was a fragrant and things like that. And then I also have other allergies, like to food additives. So I do carry an EpiPen just in case. I
okay,
do have that. I'm a label reader. Um, and so that's why I started making soap, and I've never had any skin issues with any of my soaps, anything like that. So, but,
great.
but let me kind of explain the blend that I did. So I used, and I'm going to talk about each one because I just feel that the combination that I used has been perfect for me. And I think anybody that maybe going through similar, some grief or things like that, this may work for them too. So I used myrrh, Camaflora myrrha, and that helped with healing of old wounds, and it's like the balm of grief. So I used myrrh. I
Mhm.
used amber Pinaceae sufficifera, and it heals which is broken. So I've been broken, and it seems like I was healed, and now I'm kind of broken again. Rose Absolute, Rose Damascusina. It's for the heartache. We all know rose is definitely triggers the heart, whether it's heartache, whether it's sorrow, but anything that has to do with the heart. And again, with some grief too. And I do recommend that with people, with heartaches, whether it be divorces or, um, just relationship, things like that, but it's that triggers like a broken heart. Then the rock rose, which is Cistus lambdiferius. I don't always say these words right, so excuse me, but it's for old trauma of the heart, and that's that's when I really triggered and really zeroed in on the cistus because it was for old trauma on the heart. So with my new grief, it's pulling up my old trauma, and I'm
Mhm.
really seeing the difference with that. And even if I just inhale the cistus, and then I use sweet orange, um, citrus sinacea, because I needed some uplifting and I needed some happiness. And citruses are very. I love actually pink grapefruit, but I felt the orange was a little more subtle, and I think it went well with my blend, and I just love my blend. I really do. So that's why I pulled those different essential oils in and zeroed in on the cistus because again, it was the old trauma and grief, and the different there's a lot of different essential oils, but I really felt, and because as a Christian, rock rose is also the rose of Sharon. And I just really felt that drawing close to the Bible was and myrrh, things like that. So and rose, um, So that's why I use that blend there.
It sounds beautiful. I can't wait to try it. Uh,
Well, and let me see. Um,
and you said it was in 30 mil, correct? Of
it's a yeah, 30 mil roller. Yeah,
ball. Okay,
yeah,
great.
yeah. And I'll have to get the other sheet of paper for the recipe, and I'll get that. Let me get that. Hold on a second.
Oh, yeah, sure, of course. If you want to share it, that would be great.
Yeah, I just have to pull my notes up here. Okay, so I used 1 drop of myrrh, and I used, let's see, I used amber 5 drops, rose 1 drop, cistus 3 drops, and the orange I used 8 drops.
Sounds beautiful.
Yes,
And then in your jojoba,
yes,
wow, so nice with
yes,
the myrrh, and it seems like it's very grounding too, with the myrrh and the amber in it, and rock
yes,
you know.
yes. Very grounding, and I love grounding essential oils. I have a few in my shop that I've made, and actually they're a big hit. But yes, that so this one, and it's such a pretty color too.
Oh, with the amber in it like that and the myrrh.
Yes.
Yes. Well, and
Ugh.
citrus has a nice color too to it, you know.
Yes, it does. Yes.
So it's very deep. I think saying profound and deep is um, good explanation of what you've been going through, and also what your blend does.
Hmm. Well, I think people need to realize too that, and as a social worker and had led in hospice grief support groups, people have to grieve. They have to be allowed to grieve. But they
Mhm.
also, you're never going to get over a death. You're going to be able to understand and have life again, and the sadness lessens. So, but people have to grieve, and if they don't grieve, they're going to get stuck, and they're going to have either physical or other mental health problems. And I'm just going to give this an example. When we lived in Germany, there was a little boy that never got to see his grandfather, and his grandfather died. So the little boy was 7, and he didn't, his family didn't understand why he was acting weird, because we were in Germany, his grandfather was in the States, and he was very attached to his grandfather. And so he started to wet his pants. He started to have all these weird things. And when we sat down, he just started crying and saying, "I miss my grandpa." And when all that came out, you know, you understood that he didn't have that closure. He didn't have anything. And so people, and that's just one example, people need to grieve. They need to be allowed to grieve. They need to grieve. But if they are grieving every day, screaming, crying, and going to the graveyard or the cemetery, and they can't function, that's
Mhm.
a problem.
Yeah.
So we have to grieve, and we have to be able to pull those emotions out, because otherwise we become sick. And I knew that, as a social worker, and a lot of social workers, people in the helping field, don't take care of themselves. And I
Mm.
knew, for one, that I had to, because I still had to function. I still had a child at home at that time with my husband, and so I still had to provide. And so I think just understanding those dynamics was very helpful, definitely. And then diving more into um, the correct essential oils for what my needs were now. I did
Mhm.
that before. I wasn't using essential oils as much. I was using them to make blends, and didn't really dive into the medical aspect and the psychological and the mental health aspect. And so now everybody says, "Janet, do you have an oil for that?"
That's great, Janet. That's
They know,
wonderful.
they know, what can I do for this?
I think you've made a really good point about grief. We have to be able to um, let it go, and cry and have those things. And on the other hand, we still have to function. So by you being able to use this blend and it grounds you, it keeps you clear, it keeps you, you know, able to think clearly still too, and uplifts you, you're able to drive home and still function. And it doesn't mean that though tomorrow morning you might wake up and still cry. It just means that this is helping you along in your journey with what's happening with your daughter as she
Mhm.
goes through this process of, with the Alzheimer's disease. And I think that you showing how you've researched too and found out about now where this comes from, that's very helpful for people because I didn't realize that there was certain areas in the world where you had these certain DNAs where people who were prone to Alzheimer's. I had no idea till you sent me your information. I was like, wow, this is so interesting and how helpful this is.
Well, and I think the next thing that I'm going to try to look at is, why is it in certain areas? Is there, and I was telling Greg, my significant other, who's very supportive, and he's the only grandfather that my grandkids, I have a 20 and a half year old and I have a 5-year old that know so he's been very supportive and very good and just kind of lets me do my thing and, and helps me when I do some craft fairs and things like that. But the, the thing that I want to know is there some kind of soil or is there some kind of radioactive or something in the soil down there that people or in the atmosphere or something that they have been inundated with and then therefore it gets into their bloodstream and then it passes on to their children. So uh, I don't it's a mutant gene and they're saying, well, these are wonderful cures for Alzheimer's. They have advertised do this or do that, but when it's a DNA, it's different. It's a DNA. So people don't understand that. Yes, you can. You need to do word searches to keep your mind busy. It's totally different when it's a DNA, when it's a mutant gene that has caused the Alzheimer's,
Mm.
not not a stroke or not a aluminum or not blood clots or anything medical. It's very different. So
Mm.
I kind of wanted to, and that's kind of my next step in research. I am talking to a hospital in California, and this week, and it has to do with the Jalisco gene and families that have that. So I'm going to be it's like a support group on Facebook that I'll be talking to them. And I don't have a date yet. We're just going to, this week, we're going to set up a date. So,
Great. That's absolutely wonderful. And you also were going to share with us how you smell cistus, how you like to smell it just right out of the bottle. So I'll do it with you.
well,
I've got mine here.
yeah. Well, it's funny because I can smell it that way, but when I work with people, I like to use the perfume strip or the scent strip, and it seems like you get a better scent from it. Um, Here it's moving around. It's not staying in my nose. This way, it's staying in my nose, and I really love that.
Yeah, I really like cistus. It's so deep, the
It's
smell of it.
it's floral, but it's not overbearing because I am not a floral. I am not a floral person. Ylang ylang is one of my go-tos to help sleep, but it's very muted. I put a lot of other essential oils in.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's too overbearing for me by itself.
It can be very heady, you know, and ylang ylang. And this cistus is so different because it opens up your head when you smell
Yes,
it. It really goes to the top of your head, right? But
yes,
but yet there's this deeper aspect to it that also grounds you at the same time. That's what I love about
yes,
cistus. And you're right, it
yes.
does have a floral aspect to it too.
Hmm.
It's just so healing, cistus. You know, it's for me, it's the wound healer. And this is a heart wound that we've been talking about, and how it's helped you with also the other beautiful essential oils that you used with it, myrrh and amber and orange. And what was your other one? Oh, and rose, of course.
Yes,
We
yes,
can't forget
yes,
that. That's
yes,
just, this is a
yes.
beautiful essential oil. And
Yes. And it's it's underused, I think. People do not what I do is I don't know every essential oil. So what I do is I do myself. I do deep dives into essential oils, and it's like, oh, I like this one, or oh, I like that one. So let me research this and let me study it. What could I use it for? And I'll buy small little bottles, and I self-educate a lot. I'm a researcher, like I said. And I came across, like I said, Cistus researching emotional and healing, and it was like, wow. So I recommend it a lot of times with I made a blend for my girlfriend that's going through a divorce, and Cistus was included in it. And
mhm,
because this is a second divorce, and she's pulling up again like those old hurt feelings from the first divorce 30 years ago. So her and I are very close, and she's a believer of essential oils. She uses a lot of essential oils, but the combination, she doesn't know how to combine them. So that really
mhm.
helps. And then the same with my sister was here this weekend, and I made a blend for her to sleep, and I used Cistus because Cistus she's got some issues with broken hearts too, and can't fall asleep, and so I used Cistus with her little roller blend along with a few other essential oils. So I'm trying to really utilize it in the appropriate places. And like I said, I think it's underutilized. People are not using this essential oil when they can.
Right. The potential of cystis is huge, because
Yes,
we've been talking
yes,
about the emotional wound. Um, when you use cystis on a wound, a skin wound, uh,
yes,
it is one of the best to use along. And I love to use the two together, helichrysum and those two
yes.
are together. They heal
Oh,
themselves.
yes,
There's no scar tissue. Just kind of like it's doing with the heart. Like you're saying, you're not building up, the
yes,
scar tissue in the heart. You're opening up, you're letting it go, and you're also though able to still function with your
yes.
grief.
Right, right. It's really yes. It's remarkable what essential oils can do, and I really am so thankful that I have had all the opportunities and the learning of the essential oils, and to now apply them and to teach others and to give other this information. Um, it's a blessing. It's a blessing for me. My motto is, "What good is knowledge if it's not shared?"
Exactly. And, I can't thank you enough for sharing this today with us, this beautiful story. And I want you to give us your website. Your website. Would you please let us know your website? And you also have a special channel so that way they can get a hold of you.
Yeah.
Tell us.
My website is bohemianprairiealchemist.com. And Bohemian is because my family was from the Czech Republic. I've been there. I still have family there, and that's fun. Um, Prairie, I live on the prairie, and I'm an alchemist. So, and .com. And then I do have a Rumble channel, and Rumble, it's Rumble is the same as YouTube. but Rumble does not. They are a little bit more liberal, meaning that they don't censor. So Rumble, and I just use Rumble. It's pretty easy to use, and that's Janet B Gut 67 or Aromatherapy and Natural Health. So I do have, and it's free. It doesn't cost anything. You can. I don't get anything unless I have 50,000 viewers or something. So it's really what I like to do is I like to share, and I interview different people. I actually have interviewed. I have a good friend in Poland, and we've met, and she is also an herbalist and an essential an aromatherapist, and so I interviewed her. I have a friend in Moscow, so she's an herbalist, and I interviewed her, and I do different breakdowns of essential oils, and try to do natural health. I did one on. I have a social work friend that's also Cherokee, so we did Native American herbs and so kind of a combination, a little different. Always the emphasis on natural health, and then also sometimes it's tied in a little. It's a little different. It's a little. I pull in a little few different things, but it all has to do with yourself too. Why do you do this? Because it makes me feel good, and this is what is me. That some of the people. So
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great. So many different ethnic groups and people that, can help us and bring their heritage, their ancestors' knowledge to us and the wisdom. That's beautiful, Janet. I am so glad that you're doing. I can't wait to watch your channel now.
thanks, thanks, thanks.
Exciting. Very
And I have to
exciting.
tell you, yeah, and Lori, I just always loved all your classes. I just don't, seems like I don't have time. I'm so glad we scheduled this, but I have taken quite a few of your classes, and I just really find you very uplifting and invigorating, and you're just down to earth, and I'm so glad that we got to do this interview.
Yes, I am too. And thank you so much, Janet. This has been absolutely wonderful. And I hope all you out there in our audience will use Cistus Essential Oil. Give Janet's wonderful formulation a try for grief, that she was so kind and shared it with us. And make sure that you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And don't forget your essentials. Use your common sense. Au revoir.
Bye bye.